Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Welcome to our online Kashmir Cultural Heritage Awareness Series. Today is our 94th in continuation of Trika Saivism of Kashmir, Resembling Thirumoolars Thirumandiram by Sri Sitaraman, historian and specialist in temple architecture. We first begin with our prayer by Srimati Bhargavi Kamalakannan. Bhargavi?
ஒன்றவன் தானே இரண்டவன் இன்னருள் நின்றனன் மூன்றினுள் நான்குணந்தான் ஐந்து வென்றனன் ஆறு விரிந்தனன் ஏழும்பர் சென்றனன் தானிருந்தான் உணர்ந்து எட்டு சிவ சிவ என்கிலர் தீவினையாளர் சிவ சிவ என்றிட தீவினை மாளும் சிவ சிவ என்றிட தேவரும் ஆவர் சிவ சிவ என்ன சிவகதிதானே சிவனோடு ஒக்கும் தெய்வம் தேடினும் இல்லை சிவனோடு ஒக்கும் தெய்வம் தேடினும் இல்லை அவனோடு ஒப்பார் இங்கு யாவரும் இல்லை அவனோடு ஒப்பார் இங்கு யாவரும் இல்லை புவனம் கடந்தன்று பொன்னொளி மின்னும் புவனம் கடந்தன்று பொன்னொளி மின்னும் தவன சடை மூடி தாமரையானே தவன சடை மூடி தாமரையானே திருச்சிற்றம்பலம்.
Thank you, Bhargavi. Just a brief intro about Bhargavi. Bhargavi hails from Chennai, working as Oduvar in Thiruvalidayam, a Padal Petrasalam. Padal Petrasalam is source of the song in Padi, Chennai, outskirts of Chennai. Being passionate about Saivism, she completed 5 years in Saiva Siddhantam and also certified in Pannir Thirumurai from Thiruvadurai Adinam. Thank you, Bhargavi. I just looked at the temple. I have never heard of that in Padi, although I've been to Padi several times. Thiruvalidayam, right? That is a 11th century temple?
Yes, sir.
Now we understand Oduvar, we understand Padal Petrasalam for our viewers, mostly Kashmiri Pandits or devotees who are joining from USA. What Oduvars reciter, right? Oduvars usually sing in temples.
Oduvar usually sing, Pancha Puranam in temples. I mean, we have 4 columns during the day, and we have Kalasandhi, and we have Uchi Kalam, and we have Sayarakshay, and finally we have Attajamam, come Palyarai. So Oduvar used to, recite all the Devara hymns in temple during every kalam. So we usually sing Devaram, Tiruvasakam, Tiruvisaipa, Tirupallandu, and Periya Puranam. So this is how Oduvar will usually render all the songs in front of Lord Shiva.
Mostly in old ancient temples, historic temples, we hear Oduvars, right? Like for example, Kabalishwara temple, we have Oduvar.
Yes, sir. It is not about the old temple or we have every temple will be appointed. Every temple has a Oduvar who will recite all the hymns over Lord Shiva. So it is not about old or a new temple. Every temple will have an Oduvar, but our government has started appointing women Oduvar recently. So luckily, I am part of the latest batch who has been appointed.
Yeah, I think already we have a female Oduwa in one of the temples. I think it came in news recently,
Yes,
appointed
sir.
as
Yes. Yeah.
first woman.
I've been part of. Yeah. I've been
Yep.
part of those batch.
ரொம்ப சந்தோஷம். Thank you so much. And
Thank you, sir.
we look forward to seeing you more in our program.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, 1 second. We will add, sir, you were able to
Namaskaram.
listen to her.
Yeah,
You were able to listen,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank
And
you,
it was fantastic.
Bhargavi. Yes, you want to say
Thank
anything?
you, sir.
Yeah, it is most relevant. All 3,000 hymns are most relevant, but still, she has chosen fantastic verses today.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for the opportunity, sir.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank you.
Bhargavi.
Thank you, sir.
We want to thank Sri Kanchimat for our ongoing Kashmir initiatives and offer our namaskarams to His Holiness Sri Shankara Vijayendra Saraswati Swamigal. Kanchi Mutt has been in the forefront, modestly working with the sole aim of national integration, spiritual enlightenment, and preserving the uniqueness of Kashmir, as Kashmir is our cultural heritage. Now, we are very pleased to reintroduce Sita Ramanji. This is his second appearance in our program. The last one, we had the privilege of archaeologist Rajan introducing him before his presentation. But those who are joining us only today, I thought I'll say a few words. I know Sitaraman as an entrepreneur and a creator of two great retirement communities near Kumbakonam. One is near Tiruvadai Marudur, and the other one coming up in Govindapuram called Kaustabam. His other side, as mentioned in our earlier series, is a well known historian, specialist in temple architecture and accomplishments in these fields. He has delivered more than 100 lectures on South Indian temple architecture, evolution of religious cults in Tamil Nadu, and comparative study of Saiva literature and Kashmir Saivism, with a special reference to Thirumoolars and Abhinava Gupta, the father of Kashmir Saiva philosophy. His research on the date of Saiva saint Manikavashagar and Vaishnava saint Andal are well appreciated by scholars. Sri Sitaraman is the author of books including Payana Vari Varalaru and Ilakkiya Inbam, both in Tamil. He received several awards, including one from Kanchi Pitathipati Jagadguru Puja Sri Vijayendra Saraswati Shankaracharya Swamigal, the title Apurva Ratna. With this, we are delighted inviting Sri Sitaraman for his second series on Thirumoolars Thirumandiram and Kashmiri connection. Please go ahead. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for the very novel introduction. Thank you so much. I begin with my humble pronouns to Sri Kanchi Kamakodi Pedadipadi Sri Vijayendra Saraswati Swamigal. With this blessing, I'm going to present my small presentation about Thirumoolars Thirumandiram in connection with Trika Saivism Part 2. I take this opportunity to thank Mr. T.K. Virajan and Mr. Shankar for giving me the great opportunity presenting a fantastic things before the elite audience. Thank you so much. I generally begin with my any speech by contemplating பாரதியார்ஸ் எண்ணிய முடிதல் வேண்டும், நல்லவே எண்ணல் வேண்டும், திண்ணிய நெஞ்சம் வேண்டும், தெளிந்த நல் அறிவு வேண்டும். With this prayer, I am going to present Thirumoolars Thirumandiram. In the end of the speech, I am going to compare how Thirumandiram is related to Kashmiri Trika Saivism. In my previous speech, we have detailedly covered about what is Trika Saivism, what kind of school of thoughts it has. In the speech, we are going to relate how Thirumandiram explains about the various level of consciousness and the identical points between Trika Saivism and Thirumoolar. First of all, in the Siddha tradition of Tamil, it has many authors. From 5th century to 12th century, there has been plenty of Saiva Siddhanta authors. They have written so many verses. It's all collected by Sekirar, and he made a greatest compilation called Periya Puranam. In that 12 Thirumurais, Thirumandiram is one among them. Among this 12th, Thirumandiram is the only one. It is called Tantra. This itself, a great resemblance. The Kashmiri Trika Saivism is also called Tantra. Particularly, while introducing me, Mr. Shankar rightly mentioned about Acharya Abhinav Gupta of Kashmir. His masterpiece, magnum opus work on the field of Saivism is called Tantra Loga. The Tantra Loga also has 9 volumes. Thirumoolars Thirumandiram also has 9 Tantras. So probably we can call Thirumoolars Thirumandiram is the earliest known Tamil treatise on yoga. The speciality of Thirumandiram is it is considered to be both a devotional work as well as a tantric text. Unlike other major Siddha compositions, Thirumandiram does not contain any section of medical preparations or alchemy. It is the only text where the sections are named Tandaram. In contrast to the popular pluralistic Saiva Siddhanta, Thirumandiram, one among the 12 canons, because from 6th century to 10th century, the rise of Shaiva, it's like, a bullet from a gun. So it's all compiled and called as Thirumarai. Thirumandiram has the speciality. Out of this 12 Thirumarai, Thirumandiram is the only one which concentrates more on monastic in its philosophy. We can say Tamil Siddha tradition, an offshoot of the pan-Indian tantric system, uses the body and the mind as a tool to go beyond the limitations of time, space, and cash basins. Unlike the philosophical schools that dismiss the body as an embodiment, the Tamil Siddhas place great emphasis on the role of body and mind to reach supreme state of consciousness. While both Vedanta and Agama are considered as the basis of the school of philosophy, Agamas are considered to be more specific and pragmatic than the Vedanta. This is the exact case in Kashmiri Trika Saivism also. In fact, Kashmiri Trika Saivism absolutely based on Agama. So Thirumoolars Thirumandiram consists of both. So Thirumoolars Thirumandiram, we can call it a flagship Tamil Siddha work, is unique in that it blends philosophical exposition with practical techniques such as Ashtanga Yoga and Mantra Yoga. During the prayer, Bhargavi's first prayer song, it actually summarizes the Ashtanga Yoga in that song. So the Ashta means 8. The Thirumoolars Jnana work, yoga work, compile of 8 elements. So that 8 elements summarized in that particular prayer song of today. I thanks to Bhargavi to remind that fantastic verse. So I'm just going on further. Unlike the other major Tamil Siddha compositions such as Agastya's Veda Somyam, Bogar 7000, and Kaunagar Kavyam, Thirumandaram does not discuss medical preparations or alchemy. I am emphasizing this particular thought again and again because even in my last speech I was mentioning this. All Siddha traditions are focusing more on the alchemy. Tamil Nadu is familiar of many Siddhas. Though their primary concentration on attaining the God, in their branches, they parallelly they have developed formula for alchemy. Where Thirumoolars Thirumandaram is the only work which does not deal with any kind of medical preparations or alchemy. While the date of Thirumoolar is confirmed by one of the scholar, Mr. Ganapati, he dates between 550 AD to 600 AD. So from this historical timeline, probably we can say among the Nayanmars or Tirumurai authors, he would be the earliest in terms of Tamil Saiva Siddhantam. So as we have mentioned earlier, Thirumoolars Thirumandaram divided into 9 parts, and it's all called by tantras. The first tantra began with code of ethics. In his second tantram, he explains Saiva Puranic episodes and the 5 acts of Lord Shiva: creation, sustenance, dissolution of both the macrocosm and microcosm, concealment and bestowing of grace are described. In his third tantra, the Ashtanga Yoga and special yoga such as Paryanga Yoga and Kesari Yoga are the themes of Thirumoolars' third tantram. And he has dedicated the fourth tantram exclusively to various chakras, right from Mooladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipuraga, Anagadam, Vishukti, Ajna, Duryam, and Duryadidam. So the complete set of yoga in terms of finest and deepest level of explanations are there in Tantram 4. The fifth Tantram discusses the 4 main themes of Agama. I am emphasizing among that 9, the fifth Tantra of Thirumoolar that contains the secrets of being and becoming, because it is completely focused on Agama, the Charya, Kriya, Yoga, and Jnana. And it can also support Thirumoolar's claim that his work is an Agama. So this is the perfect correlation between Kashmiri Trika Saivism and Thirumoolars Thirumandaram. See, he goes step by step. In his sixth tantram, it deals with absolutely monistic philosophy of Saivism, because there are 3 levels of consciousness: knower, known, and object of knowledge. It is completely discussed along with the behavior of a true Shiva in his sixth Tantram. Tantram 7 elaborates on the characteristics of Saiva rituals such as death ritual, worship, food, and receiving alms. These are all the traditions of our early lifestyle. He correlates in the seventh tantram how they are all related to one's life and one becomes God. So this tantram contains 5 sections that describe 5 types of Aditya, a term used to indicate emergence of knowledge. He goes one step further into his 8th tantram, types of bodies, states of consciousness, and the experiences of the soul in these states from the central theme of Tantram 8. The concluding Tantram, while I am reading some of the verses in the 9th Tantra, it reminds me of the great Adi Shankara, the founder of Advaita philosophy. He also, after explaining the Advaita and other thing, he established 6 kind of worshipping methods. Like this, in his all 8 tantras, Thirumoolar explained the scientific approaches towards yoga and one should become Shiva. In his 9th tantram, he explains and discusses 5 types of panchakshara indicating their correspondence with the 5 types of bodies. 5 kutu or dances are described here along with the ultimate state, the Mauna Samadhi. Mona Samadhi or Mauna Samadhi, we can call it either way. Mona means unique or single-minded. Mauna means silence. So we can use the term either Mona or Mauna Samadhi or state of silence. So during that, if you achieve that level, the Mauna Samadhi, you are one with the God. So right from the ethics to attaining Shiva in this 3000 verses, Thirumandiram deals with the 360 degree of the spirituality, which is the fantastic and unique speciality of Thirumoolars Thirumandiram. So it cannot be an exaggerated statement as much as my understand about Thirumandiram. And we can say the spiritualistic world, we can divide this into 2. One is Bhakti movement and the second one is Jnana movement. The Jnana movement is completely dealing with the word consciousness. So in that line, we can say Thirumandiram is the only Tamil Siddha text that discusses consciousness in an elaborate fashion. There is a conjecture that Thirumandiram shares its philosophical views with the monastic Kashmir Saivism. You may wonder, while using the word Saivism, many a time I give a prefix monastic because as like other philosophies in the world, Saivism also has many facets. It has accommodated all type of practices like monastic, dualistic, and multi-dualistic, mono-dualistic. Like that, so many phases of Saivism is even or available even today. But the Trika Saivism of Kashmir and the Thirumandiram of Thirumoolar, both are monistic in nature. That is why I'm using the word monistic Saivism very often while dealing with Trika Saivism or Thirumoolar. So, in a study on the roots of Sri Vidya Shakta Tantrism in South India, one of the great authors of history and in terms of religion, the Western author Douglas Reno Brooks points out that Thirumandaram has much in common with certain standards of Tantris, specifically Trika Saivism. There is a strong belief the connection between Thirumandaram and Trika Saivism more or less one and the same. It may be because there is a strong belief in the religion world as well as historical world. There is a belief that Thirumoolar has come from North India or exactly from Kashmir. So where do we get evidences for such a great statement? It's a great statement. So for a common man, we can say anything, but when it comes to history, we need to talk about the strong evidences. But unfortunately, there is no much very strong evidence for the statement, but there are some. The author of Periya Puranam, Sekidar, he mentions in a Periya Puranam a biography of the background of Sekidar is he has written a greatest biography of 63 Nayanmars, mentions that Thirumoolar came to South India from the north in Periya Puranam. Sir, am I audible? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, I hear you.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, okay. Thank you. In between, I think I've got my line has got cut. So I was mentioning about Sisir Kumar Das, a North Indian historian, said Thirumoolar came from Kashmir, and in particular, he carries the doctrines of Pratyabhijna philosophy. However, there is no proof in Thirumandaram for this opinion, but there is one self-expression of Thirumoolar among this 3000 verses. Verses 91, he himself declared that he has come from Kailai. I'm just for the reference of the viewers, I'm going to say the exact verse. விளக்கி பரமாகும் மெய்ஞான சோதி அலப்பில் பெருமையன் ஆனந்த நந்தி துலக்கரும் ஆனந்த கூத்தன் சொற்போந்து வளப்பில் கைலை வழியில் வந்தேனே. The word vandene, it has a sound of egaram. In Tamil, the egaram means double confirmation, sealing the statement. Kailai vazhiyil vandene. By saying this, Thirumoolar himself attesting that he has come from north, particularly the mountains of Kailaya, which very much lies in Kashmir Valley. However, his work of Thirumandaram is going beyond even today's science, we can say. Thirumandaram deals all sort of technicalities. It describes the types of souls, the bodies they adorn, states of consciousness, and the soul's experience in these states. Primarily, Thirumandaram deals consciousness in an elaborative way. There are several stages of consciousness. To address the distinction between one and the other, he uses four various terminologies to represent consciousness: Arivu, Bodham, Nandi, and Shivam, to indicate consciousness, particularly in Tantram 8. Tantram 8 has many sections. Particularly, the 14th section discusses the nature of Arivu. Arivu is consciousness about one's self. His quote, Tannai Ariyum Arivu. His famous verse, among this 3000, even one verse reached a common man, the so-called common man. In a very simple terminology, he says, Tannai Ariya Tanakoru Kedillai. Tannai Ariyamal Thane Keduகின்றான். தன்னை அறியும் அறிவை அறிந்தபின் தன்னையே அர்ச்சிக்க தான் இருந்தானே. So the four lines about the consciousness, if you decode these four lines, we can easily get to know the knower, known, and the object of knowing are all falls in the same line. While trying to recognize oneself, how his consciousness expands. He explains it the same in another beautiful verse. அறிவுடையார் நெஞ்சு அகலிடம் ஆவது. அறிவுடையார் நெஞ்சு அருந்தவம் ஆவது. அறிவுடையார் நெஞ்சோடு ஆதிபிரானும் அறிவுடையார் நெஞ்சத்து அங்கு நின்றானே. In another verse, he is talking about the nature of the consciousness. If we understand that particular verse very well, we can understand ourselves and consciousness very well. I'm just presenting that particular verse before you. அறிவுக்கு அழிவில்லை, ஆக்கமும் இல்லை. அறிவுக்கு அறிவல்லது ஆதாரம் இல்லை. அறிவே அறிவை அறிகின்றது என்றிட்டு அறைகின்றன மறை ஈறுகள் தாமே. So I'm trying to summarize the meaning of these two. The form of the soul is arivu. Arivu occurs due to divine grace. I must mention one particular famous verse from the famous Manikavasakar. His particular saying has become famous worldwide. Avanarulale avantal vanangi. Actually, root of Manikavasakar's this particular statement is Thirumoolar. Thirumoolar in his Thirumandiram, particularly he mentions Arivu occurs due to his divine grace. Such a kind of Arivu is neither created nor destroyed and has only itself as its substratum. So the meaning of this last word, the substratum, is that itself, its own root. Arivu is in 360 degrees. It is not static but dynamic, as it is aware of its own nature. So this is what he mentions, Arive, Arivai, Arihindradu. So it does not need any external agent to facilitate its own identification. No one can see the boundary of Arivu. So underline this particular statement, no one can see the boundary of Arivu. For this line, he has mentioned a specific poem. எவ்வாறு காண்பான் அறிவு தனக்கெல்லை, அவ்வாறு அருட்செய்வன் ஆதி அரண் தானும், ஒவ்வாத மன்றுள் உமைகாண ஆடிடும் செவ்வானிற் செய்ய செழுஞ்சுடர் மாணிக்கமே. So the summary of this 4-line is, no one can see the boundary of Arivu. Even one's own experience, he can enjoy the state of consciousness, but he cannot define what would be the state. So that is what he tries to say in this. So it is expansive effulgence. Arivu realizes its nature as the eternal light within. So Thirumandiram states that individual self is none other than Shiva. This is similar to the variety of his verses, he concretes, reinstates. In the 3000 verses, in various hymns that he has written, he talks about Arivu, Arivu, Arivu. When recognition of self occurs, the limited consciousness merges with the supreme consciousness. Personally, I like this verse very much because it gives a common man a greatest confidence. One can attain Lord Shiva by himself. There is no other place for Sit to merge other than Sit. I'm just presenting that verse before you. சத்த முதல் ஐந்தும் தன்வழி தான் சாரில் சித்துக்கு சித்தன்றி சேர்விடம் வேறுண்டோ, சுத்த வெளியர் சுடார் சுடர் சேரும் அத்தம் இது குறித்து ஆண்டுகொள் அப்பிலே. So there is no place for anybody other than attaining Sit. So every one on the earth can go and merge with Lord Shiva. So Thirumoolar compares this to space merging with space and light merging with light. Shiva is the grace that helps. Again, when I'm reading this sentence, the great sage Manikavasaka comes into my mind. Avan arulale avan taalvanangi. So the Kashmiri Trika Saivism says the Pratyabhijana. That is what it is. The moment the dawns of recognition, one is not only realizing himself, he realizes that he is already a realized soul. So to attain this, what would be the initiation? The initiation, one should seek the grace of Lord Shiva. So from his grace, only the dawn of realization can happen. So this is another right correlation between Trika Saivism and Thirumoolars Thirumandiram. So while the recognition goes up, Thirumoolar also changing the gear. அறிவு வடிவென்று அறியாத என்னை அறிவு வடிவென்று அருள் செய்தான் நந்தி. அறிவு வடிவென்று அருளால் உணர்ந்தே அறிவு வடிவென்று அறிந்திருந்தானே. அறிவு வடிவென்று அறிந்திருந்தானே. So Thirumoolar goes on like this. Thirumoolar says that the 8 mystical accomplishments as such as, while the consciousness realizing itself, it encounters many branches. It realizes the power in many forms. One among the such form is Anima, Mahima, like, the Ashtama Shaktis. When the Arivu knows and realizes all can be manifested, the knowledge about self occurs. So the divine tells the soul, you are not this Ashtama Siddhis. You are more. You are more big than all this. So such a kind of realization happens, the journey of self-awareness. Again, his repetition about consciousness, I'm going to refer one more hymn. Arivarivaga arindu anbu seimin, arivarivaga ariyum ivvannam, arivarivaga animadi sitti, arivarivaga arindanan nandiye. So in this particular hymn expresses, while the journey of self-realization, the consciousness finds its various aspects of supreme power of consciousness by way of Ashtamasiddhi. But finally it finds the real power of consciousness, the real power of self-awareness is beyond the Ashtama-siddhis. That is what he mentions in this particular hymn. Thirumoolar calls this awareness as the mantra that remains holding the body. Unlike other methods of spirituality, Thirumandiram insists the importance of body to become aware. One of his famous verses, "Oon patti ninra uyar oru mandiram." When the state is repeatedly contemplated upon, then realization occurs. Thirumandiram calls the Chit or supreme awareness as Bodham, the beginning and the endless supreme being distinguishes itself first into Parabaram and Parabarai. Parabarai is Bodham. So I'm just giving you the original text. ஆதியோடு அந்தமில்லாத பராபரம் போதமாக புணரும் பராபரை சோதியனிர் பரம் தோன்ற தோன்றுமாம் தீதில் பறையதன் பாழ் திகழ்நாதமே. So now you can understand the various terminologies. Arivu, Bodham, Nandi. Here he used the term Bodham. So when you reach or you realize this particular awareness in terms of consciousness, the Bodham brings to end the three distinct states: knower, known, and knowledge. When the samadhi of self becoming him is achieved, while you reach the level of consciousness called Bodham. So he also explained this particular state. தானவனாகும் சமாதி தலைப்படில் ஆன கலாதா தந்தோய காந்தமும் ஏனைய போதாந்தம் சித்தாந்தமானது ஞானமே ஞானதுருவாகுமே. So while you reaching the level of the term Bodham as consciousness, you are becoming the equal state of the Shiva level of consciousness. The supreme consciousness is also called Shiva Bodham, which destroys the state of limited self and the factors that cause the limitation. in his simple terminology, he explains this particular term very easily and easily understandable. Sivamana Sindayar Sivan Sidaya. Sivamana Sindayar Sivan Sidaya. Pavamana Mummalam Pari Pariya. Navamana Andathin Narchiva Bodan Tavamana Avayahi Thanallavagume. So what he trying to say in this verse, when you contemplate the consciousness of Lord Shiva, our consciousness merging into Shiva's consciousness, while the status of merging continues one particular point of a second or time, the Chetakasam of self-consciousness merges with the Mahakasam of Shiva consciousness. So, while you contemplate the consciousness of Lord Shiva or the Supreme Consciousness, how your heart becomes broader. Again, I would like to pinpoint a particular connection between Trika Saivism and the Thirumandiram here. Trika Saivism, in its philosophy, it mentions Hridaya in many places. Like that, Thirumoolars also mentions Nenju. Arivudayar Nenju Ahalidam Avad. Arivudayar Nenju Aruntavam Avad. Arivudayar Nenjodu Adipuranam. Arivudayar Nenjathu Angu Ninrane. The meaning of this verse is, a person who seeks himself, he travels inside to reach the consciousness. His heart becomes spacious. It expands. While it expands, it is the place for penance. When it expands and when it is place for accommodating something, the capacity to accommodate something, there comes Lord Shiva and become merging Lord Shiva with that particular person. So that is what Thirumoolar explains about seeing.
I think it's frozen. Can you hear?
Am I audible?
Yeah, now you are audible. The other screen got frozen. You're okay.
Oh my God. So is anything missed out, sir?
No, you're talking about Nenji. Heart
Yes,
becomes
yes.
spacious.
Yeah. So can I repeat it again?
Yes, please.
So Thirumoolar talks about Nenj. Sir, I'm hearing echo. So
we'll try this one. Oh, okay. Now try this. Yeah.
hello, sir. Now am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Go ahead.
So I'm repeating the concept of Nenj. While I was saying about Hridaya of Kashmiri Trika Saivism is very much resembling Thirumoolars term Nenj. So while he is explaining the seeker seeking the consciousness, his heart becomes broader. While the heart becomes broader, it is able to accommodate any big thing. When the seeker is eligible or prepare himself to accommodate the big thing, that is the consciousness, Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva himself comes to him and be with him in his heart. That is what this 4 lines explains. அறிவுடையார் நெஞ்சு அகலிடம் ஆவது. அறிவுடையார் நெஞ்சு அருந்தவம் ஆவது. அறிவுடையார் நெஞ்சோடு ஆதிப்பிரானும் அறிவுடையார் நெஞ்சத்து அங்கு நின்றானே. So we are talking about some space in the Hritayam. It is Chittakasam. Then what is Magakasam? To explain the Magakasam, Thirumoolar uses the word Vettaveli. Vettaveli is another Tamil Siddha term which indicates the supreme state of consciousness. So, அலந்து துரியத் அறிவினை வாங்கி உளங்கொள் பரஞ்சகம் உண்டதொழித்து கிளர்ந்த பரம் சிவம் சேரக் கிடைத்தால் விளங்கிய வெட்ட வெளி அனுமாமே. So while the seeker travel his awareness in his Ashtanga Yoga, he mentions the Kundalini from Mooladharam, Swadhishtanam, Manipuragam, Anagadam, Ajna, then the level of Turiyam. Alandu Turiyat Arivinai Vangi. Once he reaches the stage of Turiyam, then he goes beyond the sensory perceptions. From there, the consciousness branches and traveling fast to merge with Lord Shiva. In that stage, he explains, Vilangiya Vetta Veli Anumame. So one can reach the highest level of consciousness. Okay, it seems whatever has been spoken so far may give an impression, oh, it is that easy to achieve awareness. In some of other verses, why it is not reachable to everyone? The supreme consciousness, experience of the supreme consciousness, not possible for everyone. He explains about there is a word called mala in the Tamil Siddha tradition. So, using this word, why one is not able to find himself or within himself the supreme consciousness? He explains in one verse, மலக்கலப்பாலே மறைந்தது சக்தி, மலக்கலப்பாலே மறைந்தது ஞானம், மலக்கலப்பாலே மறைந்தனன் தானு, மலக்கலப்பு அற்றால் மதியொளியாமே. So there is one, how do I explain? There is a word in the word in English, verdigris. In Tamil, it is a kind of kalimbu. While you are having some small scratches in your body, to heal that, the traditional doctors of Siddha tradition give you some kalimbu. Kalimbu is, it covers. Like that, the mala covers the Shakti, the Jnanam, and the Supreme Consciousness. So how do we come across, or how do we remove kalimbu from one's consciousness? Here again, he seeks the grace of Lord Shiva. Kalimbaruthan engal kannudal nandi. களிம்பருத்தான் கண்விழிப்பித்து களிமையே. When Arivi is covered by inmate impurities, it associates with senses and loses itself in mundane knowledge as if it is immersed in deep waters. To explain this particular sentence, I am presenting the verse. அறிவு ஐம்புலனுடனே நான்றதாகி நெறி அறியாது உற்ற நீர் ஆழம் போல அறிவு அறிவுள்ளே அழிந்தது போல குறியறிவிப்பான் குருபரணாமே. Here he talks about the Guru Shishya Parambaryam. A guru will reveal this state and help the soul transcend the inmate impurities. One has everyone has impurities. Suddenly we may think that only human beings have the impurities. Thirumoolar explains this with in other words. When we talk about Trika Saivism, how the tantra is made out of, Lord Shiva himself branch out 5 different phases. Ishana Tatpurusa, like that it goes on, no? For creation. While he himself becomes of 5 different entities, that 5 different entities itself has the impurities which will follow. So a guru reveal the state and help the soul transcend the inmate impurities. When the inmate impurities and the influence of senses are removed, then Arivu regains its original status. So Thirumoolar calls the process of limited soul becoming universal soul as Shiva Yogam, and shows that attain the state of awareness as Siva Chittar, those who remain in the light of self. சிவயோகமாவது சித்த சித்தென்று தவயோகத்துள் புக்கு தன்னொளி தானாய் அவயோகம் சாராது அவன் பதி போக நவயோக நந்தி நமக்களித்தானே. In this state of consciousness, both the consciousness, self and the supreme consciousness, remain as arivu, as bodham. அறிவாய் அறியாமை நீங்கி அவனே பொறிவாய் ஒழிந்து எங்கும் தானான போதன். அறிவாய் அவற்றினுள் தானாய் அறிவன் செறிவாகி நின்ற சீவனும் ஆகுமே. So when we talk about the consciousness dealt with Thirumoolar in his Thirumandiram, it goes on because there are more than 3,000 verses. So I'm going to talk some of them and finishes my talk today. The important one is the Lord, the beast and the attachment. Thirumandiram establishes itself as a Saiva Siddhanta by discussing the 3 entities called Pasu, Padi and Pasa. It calls the Pasu as Arivu, Padi as the Arivu of Arivu, and Pasa as that which limits the Arivu, and says that all the 3 are eternal. However, when the original state as Arivu is realized, this distinction disappears. This is where Thirumoolar established the monistic philosophy of Saivism. When he talks about Pasu, Padi, Pasam, there are 3 different states of consciousness. While it is in the dawn of awareness, all three are one and the same. That is what is explanation. I am presenting that one here. Arivu arivendra arivum anadi. So we have seen the statement Pasu, Padi, Pasam. Pasu is also Arivu. Padi is Arivu of that Arivu. Pasam is the one which gives the screen between the Padi and Pasu. But all three are from Anadi. That is what he explains here. Arivarivendra arivum anadi. அறிவுக்கு அறிவாம் பதியும் அனாதி. அறிவினை கட்டிய பாசம் அனாதி. அறிவு பதியில் பிறப்பிருந்தானே. While the consciousness merging with the super consciousness, there is no more births. All we need is to recognize that consciousness. This is what the Kashmiri Trika Saivism, the Pratyabhijna, says the exact philosophy. Probably the Pratyabhijna system of Kashmiri Trika Saivism exactly matching with this particular verse of Thirumoolar. Arivarivendra arivumanadi, அறிவுக்கறிவாம் பதியுமனாதி, அறிவினை கட்டிய பாசமனாதி, அறிவு பதியில் பிறப்பிருந்தானே. He goes with more details. பசுபதி பாசம் என பகர் மூன்றில் பதியினை போர் பசு பாசம் அனாதி. பதியினை சென்றனு காப்பசு பாசம் பதியனுக்கு அணுகிர் பசு பாசம் நில்லாவே. Here we can relate the concept of grace of Lord Shiva. That is the Padi. When the Padi anuhir pasu pasam nillave. So pasu, the self-consciousness. Pasam is a screen between self-consciousness and super-consciousness. When the grace occurs, these two vanishes. So that automatically it transcends the innate impurities and make this possible. According to Thirumandiram, there are 5 innate impurities. Anava or egoity. So what are all the screens that actually prevents one achieves the super consciousness? That is what Thirumandiram deals with, this 5 kinds of innate impurities. The first one is Anava or egoity, Maya or delusion, Kamya or karma, Mayeya or product of Maya, and Tridoi or the concealing power. Tridoi, the power which conceals the true nature of soul to it, transforms into grace and confers the soul the supreme knowledge of the self. The first 3 impurities are considered to be the primary causes for distinctions. Hence, Thirumandiram discusses only these 3 in the context of type of souls. Sometimes back, when I was explaining about the impurities, are the human beings alone having impurities? No. Thirumandiram says even his own 5 faces has got the impurities. He explains in a beautiful verse. I am presenting that before you. ஆணவமாதி மலமைந்து அவரோனுக்கு. So according to Shiva Purana, when you are exploring Lord Shiva, when we contemplate about the creation of the universe, in the beginning, Lord Shiva alone exists as the form of Vettaveli, absolute space. Nothing else were there. From that state, he becomes everything. So to create the whole universe, he is giving a Mahasankalpam. So then the process of creation started with many phases of him. So one among that phase is called Brahma. So Brahma has the impurity of 5 levels. ஆனவமாதி மலம் 5 அவரோனுக்கு. This verse denotes Brahma. ஆனவமாதி 4ஆம் மார்க்கு. Mal means Thirumal, Mahavishnu. Aranuku ஆனவமாதி 3. Aran means another form of Lord Shiva. So generally we used to term Hari or Haran. Hari Mal, Aran is Shivan. So this particular Aran has 3 level of impurities. ஈசர்க்கு 2 என்ப ஆணவம் ஒன்றே சதாசிவத்திற்கு. So I'm just summarizing. Brahma is under the influence of the 5 mala. Vishnu is under the influence of 4 mala. Hara is under the influence of 3 mala. Isha is under the influence of 2. And Sadasiva is under the influence of Anava mala. So the impurities, so we don't have to worry about the impurity. When his grace occurs, the impurities vanishes itself in a micromillisecond. So thus the mala free states begins only from Shakti. So Thirumoolar describes the Anava, Kanma and Maya as the inner covering husk and on that encash a paddy verse. ஆணவம் மாயையும் கண்மமும் ஆம் மலம் காணும் மூளைக்கு தவிடுமி ஆன்மாவும் தானுவை ஒவ்வாமல் தண்டுலமாய் நிற்கும் பேணுவாய் மற்றனின் பாசம் பிரித்தே. So from here, the stages of consciousness, how it occurs. When these souls transition to the pure Suddha state or the Maingana state, then they experience the Param as a permanent state. As we are aware, Thirumoolar first establishes the Ashtanga Yoga. In his Ashtanga Yoga, he explains several states of transmission. So one among that is Jakrat in Swapna is seeing the dream as if it is real. Swapna in Swapna is seeing the dream and forgetting it. Shushupti in Swapna is not seeing but only remembering some ideas of scenes from the dream. So Turiya in Swapna is lack of even the feeling of having seen something. It is very easily expressed by him in one verse. நனவில் நனவு புனலில் வழக்கம். நனவிற் கனவு நினைத்தல் மறத்தல். நனைவிற் சுழுத்தி உள்நாடல் இலாமை. நனவில் துரியம் அதீதத்து நந்தியே. So he easily transmits from one level of consciousness to another level of consciousness in these 4 lines. So Thirumoolar goes further to explain about Jakrat in Sushupti as that where nothing occurs. This is a state from which a person emerging into wakeful state knowing that he came from somewhere but does not know the where. Swapna in Sushupti is the emergence of a feeling. Sushupti in Sushupti is objective awareness getting destroyed by awareness or being aware of subjective awareness. Turiya in Sushupti is indescribable void. It cannot be described in words. So this also expressed by Thirumoolar very easily to reach us. Kanavil nanavupol kandal nanavam. Kanavil kandu marathal kanavam. Kanavil சுழுத்தியும் காணாமை காணல் அனுமாதி செய்தலில் ஆன துரியமே. So he is able to express in words. By contemplating these 4 lines, we may go beyond Duriyam and attains the status of Duryadida very easily. So the 4 states of consciousness are present in the Turiya also. Jakrit in Turiya is the knowledge of idam. Swapna in Turiya is the knowledge of aham. Shushupti in Turiya is Vyoma, and Turiya in Turiya is a state when the self realizes that it is Param. So the Vyoma is a state of Sadashiva where the soul experiences oneness with the universal transcendental being. Vyoma or space, according to Tamil Siddhas, is a form of the supreme being which emerges from its effulgence. Param state is a effulgence of the Paraparam. See, while explaining in English, it is very hard, but reading the verse, it is more easy to understand. Those who are known the language of Tamil are blessed to get to know from his very verse very easily. Turiya nanavam idamunar bodam. Turiya kanavam ahamunar bodam. Turiya chulutti vyomam turiyam. Turiyam paramana kondidum dane. So Thirumandiram explains Turiyadida state of consciousness in terms of Arivu. In the field of spirituality or in the field of yogam, the supreme level one should achieve is Turiyadidam. So what is Turiyadidam? Thirumandiram explains Turiyadida state of consciousness in terms of Arivu. The Jakrat in Turiyadida is awareness of Arivu becoming conscious of itself. Swapna is Arivu becoming unaware. Sushupti is not being aware of Arivu knowing itself. Turiya is Arivu becoming Arivu. So this is also explained very easily by Thirumoolar. அறிவறிகின்ற அறிவு நனவாம். அறிவு அறியாமை அடைய கனவாம். அறிவு அறிவு அவ்வறியாமை சுழுத்தி. அறிவு அறிவாகும் ஆன துரியமே. So Turyadida in Turyadida is a state of absolute fullness of consciousness. It's a state where the soul is immersed completely in Sivananda. So I think I'm done with my time, I believe. So I'm going to summarize how Kashmir Saivism related to Trika system. Trika system explains the wakeful states similar to Thirumandiram's description. Jakrit is awareness. Jakrit Swapna is living in the state of impressions of objectivity. This is a state of Buddhavastu, where there is some consciousness. Jagrat Shushupti is a state of Prabhuta, where the soul remains without experiencing the external world or internal impressions. Jagrat Turiya is Subrabhuta, where the soul remains with the consciousness of self. In Kashmir Saivism, Jagrat and Swapna is seeing something in a dream, and not being conscious of seeing. So this is a state of Gatakadam. Swapna is seeing different things, but forgetting that they were seen. This is a state of Suviksiptam. Shushupti in Swapna is developing some awareness while seeing something and forgetting it. It is a state of Samgatam, or being touched by consciousness. Now you relate the verse we have expressed now. Exactly it matches with Kashmiri Trika Saivism. Durya in Shushupti is a state of Sushamahidam. Sushamahidam. However, this is not a permanent state. The soul dreams, realizes that it is dreaming, and enters into samadhi, but then again it goes into dreaming. So Tirumular may be referring to this when he says Turiya is inferring. Now I'm going to conclude. Thirumandiram is the earliest and probably the only Tamil Siddha text that describes the nature of the soul, its states of consciousness, and the experiences in those states so elaborately. To fit with its claim to be an agama, it describes the four parts Sariya, Kriya, Yoga, Jnana, and equates them into Dasamarga, Sadbudra Marga, Shagamarga, and Sanmarga. The effects of going through these steps are Salogya, Samibhya, Sarubhya, and Sayujya, respectively. So it also elaborates on Ashtanga Yoga as a path for Samadhi, whose ultimate aim is to become one with Shivam. Without prescribing a particular path for liberation. So this is more important to make a note. In his 3000 verses, he teaches so many methods to reach the supreme consciousness. So that is why, without prescribing a particular path for liberation, it lists various rituals and chakras as paths for attaining supreme knowledge. The preliminary work on Srividya concept in Thirumandiram, probably, it has to be explored more in terms of any other traditions followed in the entire regions of India. So why I'm saying this, basically when we come across historical way of knowing things, the Srividya Upasana starts with Kashmir. In Thirumoolars Thirumandiram also, it appears in many places. Thirumoolars defines, and he also gives a name, Paraparai. So, first time in South India, one yoga master describes about Shakti Vazhipadu and Shakti as part of Shiva, and a concept well known in Trika Saivism is called the Shiva Shakti. The same concept of Shiva Shakti is absolutely derived by Thirumoolar Thirumandiram in many places. So Thirumandiram's inclusion in the Thirumarai is, it is among this 12, while the other 11 Thirumarais are talking about multi-facet of Saivism. Thirumoolars Thirumandiram is the only one talks about the monistic Saiva philosophy. So in that, while thanking the great opportunity by recollecting the consciousness of the sage Thirumoola, I am concluding this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And realizing that one is already a realized soul, and which is not happening due to impurities. I think we need to continue this discussion as we try to limit everything in 1 hour, which is not possible. And also,
Yes, sir.
those who started from the beginning, only they could understand the continuity. If somebody is joining in between, I think they will be lost in this. So clear attentiveness is very, very
And
important.
I would also like to tell you something. Thirumoolar is the person who says many things first. For example, in the Siddha Tamil tradition, he was the one who says Anbe Kadavul. And he is the one who preaches and who says Yan Petra Inbam Perugai Vayagam. And he is the one who
Vandre Kulam Oruvane Devam.
yes, fantastic, sir. Vandre Kulam Oruvane Devan. That same sentence, the Vandre Kulam Oruvane Devan itself is the expression of monistic Saivam. Thanks for reminding me that. And he is the...
No, only one question I wanted to ask you. It's getting late. Why Thirumoolars Thirumandiram is not that popular to the extent Tirukural was popularized?
It's a difficult question to answer because...
More spirituality here?
Not exactly. The less number of seekers.
Less number of seekers. Now I think
that may be a reason.
It will happen more.
Because while you seek, you can attain. That is the mantra of Thirumandiram. Seeking gets you there. So we need to increase the seekers.
We'll do one session on Thirumoolars Thirumandiram.
Okay.
You are drawing the parallel with Kashmir Saivism, and slowly we are coming into this malas, which is what we explored in Kashmiri Saivism. Maybe we could take selective verses for day-to-day living. You touched upon quite a lot of interesting things.
Yeah, plenty of verses are available, sir. All are very simple to understand. And in fact, it is easily, your question is very, very important question. It is easily understandable than Thirukural.
Yes, correct.
Though Thirukural is having, for Thirukural, you need to have somebody to explain. But when you read Thirumandiram, if you read one Thirumandiram more than one time, you can get to know yourself the meaning of that particular verse. So that's simple it is.
Self-realization and what is preventing you in this current day mechanical life, one is not able to go towards that path because of various impurities. That I think we could explore. Please do plan to join some other time to explore this further. This Kashmiri Saivism comparison is really amazing. So you establish this north-south link very well now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I sincerely thanks to you and Mr. TKV Rajan for introducing such a novel forum.
We'll be in touch. Jai Jai Shankara, Hara Hara Shankara.
Thank you.
Thank you, viewers. Actually, we crossed our time limit, which used to be 1 hour. But today, I think there is nature of explanation and comparison. Thirumoolars Thirumandiram was really fascinating and very interesting. And we wanted to have some question and answer series, which we don't have time. I will definitely plan another session with Sita Raman where we'll explore. We will have a series of programs as he is a great scholar. Now we want to thank Kanji Mutt channels, YouTube, Kamakodida.tv and Facebook for streaming our program. And as always, India's only Tamil newspaper, Dinamalar, that is carrying a great, coverage of our Kashmiri series. Every Wednesday, Thursday, they write about our program. And we will continue our session. We are very close to our 100th program, which will happen in a couple of months' time. Till we meet again, Jai Jai Shankara, Hara Hara Shankara.